and they can see us, but we can't see them. Thank you for joining us today. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services here at the Arizona Commerce Authority. We've got an exciting session today with multiple partners participating, so we'll get to that shortly. Real quick, what we like to do is if you can take a moment and type in the chat where you're tuning in from. We'd like to see where we've got everybody tuning in from and different parts of the state, sometimes international, sometimes other states. So again, we got Tempe, Glendale, San Luis, Oak Canyon, Yuma, Peoria, Queen Creek, Levine, Mesa, Oro Valley, Winslow, Fountain Hills, Bullhead City, Chandler, Phoenix Vale, Phoenix. All right, Florida, Cottonwood, Payson, Tempe, Casa Grande. All righty, well, we're glad to have everybody with us today. We're excited for this session. We've got some great partners with us. So we've got SCORE with us, we've got SeedSpot with us, and we're going to jump into that here in a little bit. But as we like to do, we like to start by first thanking all our community partners. We could not do these webinars without them, their time, their effort, and their expertise. They are all great community partners, and they make the boot camp the success that it is. So for those that are new to the boot camp, the Small Business Boot Camp is approaching 4-year birthday mark, you could say. And in that time, we've developed this to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow. It is not only our Tuesday morning webinar that we host every Tuesday morning, but it is also some interactive workshops, both in person and virtual. We also do special sessions. So there's a plethora of different types of education opportunities that we do through our boot camp. And one of the great pieces is when they are virtual, either our Tuesday morning or our virtual workshops or our virtual lunch and learns, we record them, and all those recordings are found in our small business content library. We have well over 300 recorded webinars that you can access at any time. You can download the slide decks, watch the video, and get that education. Both the regular boot camp and the content library, there's no cost to access them or to attend. So they're a great no-cost resource available to small businesses everywhere. The ACA also has a number of other programs that you see here on the screen. I'm not going to go through them like I usually do, but you can find more information on them on our website, azcommerce.com/programs. One program we do like to talk about is our small business checklist, especially for today's session. I know in the slide deck it gets mentioned, and this is an online interactive tool that helps entrepreneurs understand the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance needs at the local, state, and federal levels. We have every incorporated city in Arizona in the checklist, and also the counties and the requirements that they have for starting a business, along with a lot of other information. And you can access it at azcommerce.com/smallbiz, B-I-Z, or you can scan the QR code there on the screen, it'll take you to it as well. So with that, we want to touch on a couple quick updates, and then I'm going to turn some time over to SeedSpot. But first, just a reminder that depending on where you're at in the state, you might be able to participate in Moonshot's 5th annual rural pitch competition. They're doing a total of 16 different locations throughout the state this year, and there's no cost to participate. So take a look at that, moonshotaz.org. And then the Impact AZ Accelerator is, I think the application is still available for that. We're going to post a link for it in the chat. And then we're also going to post in a link to some grant opportunities from an article out of the Phoenix Business Journal that has some good information on potential grants for businesses. So with that, we're going to turn a few slides over to our partner at SeedSpot to talk about a program that is partnering with us for the next few weeks. So Astrid, it is all yours to go through your information.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robert. And hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This session is partnered with Startup Spring Training, led with SeedSpot. You probably received the link to this workshop this morning. If you didn't receive it last night, this morning, and it's linked on our website. You may be coming in named Astrid. That is me. So feel free to rename yourself if that happened. You can usually do that. There's going to be 3 dots next to your name when you go to participants or when you find yourself in the bottom of your Zoom, and that should help you rename yourself. See an Astrid in the chat already, but there's no problem if you can't rename yourselves. It's just a part of the link. But I just wanted to recap some of what is a part of our spring training program, what you get credit for this session. So Robert, if you'll go to the next slide. Jump in. So with Startup Spring Training, we have 3 weeks of all free workshops, just like this one, events, and even mentorship provided through this program. And just for attending, you have the opportunity to win a $500 micro grant coming from SeedSpot, and supported by many of our community partners. There are eligibility requirements at the bottom of the home page if you are wondering the specifics around that. For the most part, our programming is open to everyone, but it is curated specifically for Arizona women and BIPOC founders. So check out those requirements, make sure you are eligible for the micro grant, but in all of the base awards, like the free mentorship and the 2-day launch camp, that's available to everyone. And I'll jump over to the next slide. So in order to qualify for these bases, make sure you're getting your base awards and make sure you're participating in all the programming. You need to check in at the start of any Startup Spring Training class. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to take a second. If you could break out your phones, you can scan this code. You go to your camera on your phone, you scan the code. It's going to take you to a really quick little form. It asks your name, your email, and it's going to ask you for your code word. The code word for this course is BASES. This is how we know that you're checked in and how we're able to count towards your bases. If you attended yesterday, you probably got your first base email. Some even got a second base email. So this is how we'll go through today. I see some people are on their phone. I'll drop the link when we pick right back up so that you can access the link from the chat in your phone. It will probably take you out of your Zoom on your phone though. And then you can do all the same steps. But if you attended yesterday, you'll know you'll get the first base emails. They do come by the end of the day. So it's not right after this call. You're not going to get your base email. Give it a couple hours, and then you'll jump in. Code word is bases. And then coming up after this class, we do have another session. It's on the schedule at startupspringtraining.com. You'll see another session for later today. And tomorrow, we have a session all around launching a nonprofit. So feel free to follow the schedule along there. And I'll hand it back to Robert. And in the meantime, I'll drop the link to our check-in.
All right, thank you, Astrid. Again, if you logged in and your name is Astrid, please change your name on there so we can make sure you're getting credit for attending this session for the Startup Spring Training with SeedSpot. All right, so some upcoming sessions in the boot camp, regular Tuesday morning webinars. We have the importance of financial management, which is also part of the SeedSpot program. And then we have Project Management 365, moving your projects through the pipeline. And then we have a really exciting one on ChatGPT and AI in your business and how you can use that in real world ways. And we're actually going to, it's a great session. I just participated in it again with our presenter last week. And we dive into some real world activities that you can do to help to leverage AI for your business. So join us for that one as well. And with that, we're going to jump into today's session. We've got Alan Himmelstein. He's the chapter chair and certified mentor with SCORE Greater Phoenix. SCORE used to go by its acronym. SCORE is the acronym. It used to be called the Service Corps of Retired Executives. But SCORE is a no-cost business counseling program that is funded by the Small Business Administration federally, and they help small businesses get started and do counseling. They also work with businesses that want to grow, and they have experts in various fields that are all volunteer, give back of their time after having successful careers. So Alan, I'm going to stop sharing and it is all yours.
Okay.
And in today's, sorry, Alan, before you started, in today's session, There's going to be some polls we're going to put up. You'll also have some questions, so it's real important that you post your questions in the Q&A and not the chat. If you post them in the chat, we might miss them, so we don't want to miss those questions. So if you post the questions in the Q&A, we can track them and make sure we try to get to them. So Alan, it's all yours.
Very good. Well, thank you. It is great to be working with the ACA. I mean, we are definitely business resource partners. We're just here to help you, primarily with a lot of free information and advice, etc. So I want to first start and tell you a little bit about SCORE that that Robert alluded to. SCORE was founded in 1964. There's over 10,000 volunteers. It's funded and we work through the SBA. We're all about free mentoring and co-mentoring. I think that's quite unique because if I don't, maybe 80% of businesses stay, but that 20%, I may need to bring in an expert. For instance, I don't know about equine therapy, but there is a volunteer in our chapter that knows about equine therapy. So I can bring them in and out. Free workshops, we provide free workshops like the ACA and webinars. There's at least 3 or 4 webinars going on a week, and we have several in-person workshops in Arizona. Also, I want to re-emphasize too, this is a national organization, and at any time you can get a SCORE mentor from any part of the country. Free online resources. So we have templates for every aspect of your business, okay? Whether it's finance or it's sales and marketing plans, business model canvas, etc. We have it. And we're here for the life of your business. It's not like, so for instance, I have some people, they want mentoring for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden they disappear, but they can come back in 3 months, 3 years, wherever. We're for the life of your business, okay? It's not just, for 6 weeks or 6 months or something like that, okay? Okay, just real quickly, our impact, this is a brand, I just got this yesterday, so I wanted to throw this slide in. This is our impact in Arizona itself. So there were, through our mentoring services, and workshops, there were over 771, boy, are they exact, on new businesses started, 2,700 total jobs created. Now, this is based on having at least 3 mentoring sessions, okay? And that's what this is based on. We do not take statistics when just mentor one and done, because there are a few people like that. Okay, let's come back to our partnership. We have on our website, the SCORE.org website, startup business checklist. However, Robert and his team have developed this Arizona Business One Stop that is for Arizona. And I think it's a very important tool to use. Again, if you want a mentor to come in and help you with it, because there are certain glitches, you can go through it with a mentor, okay? They also have this startup checklist. And I found that, and this is the best tool. We used to try and introduce it by, just by knowledge. But this tool is great because it's digital, but it's also, again, a mentor can go through that with you step by step by step, because forming an LLC, for instance, it's not that difficult if you know how to do it. And also, too, sometimes you want to hire a lawyer, and sometimes it's important to, for instance, if you have, if you have partners or things like that. But an experienced mentor can go through this with you, okay? So.
Hey, Alan, we had some feedback from some people in the chat that you're breaking up a little bit with your mic, so you might.
Okay, I have an external mic. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna break this down into several modules here. The first one is going to be is owning business right for you. Then we're going to go into your options to getting started. Okay, the legal things to consider, simple business planning, finances and funding for your business, and marketing business. Okay, so let's start with is owning a business right for you. Now, myth or reality? As an entrepreneur, you won't have to work so hard or such long hours. When I started a business, and fortunately, I started a business. The first business I started was for a European company, but I was their first employee and had lots of money to supply me. But I want to tell you, it was a lot of long hours, a lot of travel, and everything. So I never worked so hard. But it's very important that my family is behind me, support. My product or service is unique, and there is no competition. I once attended an AMA course, and some people said there was no competition, and there was a 5-day course on strategic marketing planning. There's always competition. It's just how you develop it look different. Okay. If I own a business, I won't have to pay Social Security taxes. That's one of the first things you should be paying yourself, paying Social Security. As a business owner, I can expense everything. Not true. You can expense a lot of things that you can't otherwise, but you can't expense everything. And don't mix your personal stuff with your business. Business owners get to do what they want to do. No, your customer is now your boss. So don't ever forget that. So anyway, all right. So you have an idea. And it says your idea should solve a problem, fulfill a need in the marketplace immediately. You know, let's say you want to start a laundromat. Well, is that really unique, or are you solving a problem? Could be. Depends where you put it. If you put it in a place that doesn't have a laundromat, yeah, you're solving a problem. So don't forget that some standard businesses, if they're placed right, and if they develop a niche, can be great ideas. All right. But it should be clear who will buy and why. You know, a good example of that is, you know, if you put it, like for instance, people know Bash's'. They also know that Bash's' owns AJ's and Food City. Okay. Who's going to buy from AJ's and who's going to buy from Food City and who's going to buy from Bash's'? They've developed distinct markets for there, and where they place their supermarket is important. So be clear who you buy. All right. Now, it starts with an idea, but you need to have certain skill sets. Okay. That's important. All right. And you can go through all these and say which one is more, which ones do I have? I would emphasize that industry experience can be, it's not 100%, but I would say it's very important to have industry experience. I had one lady that she came to me and she was a property manager and she wanted to go into essential oils. Well, what experience can you use from property management and starting an essential oil business? I didn't see it, and she really couldn't relate to that. So that's strong work ethic. You can never, ever, you know, say that, you know, well, I lost my job and now I want to start this. And, you know, I really 20, 30 hours a week. Maybe over time you can do that. But in the beginning, think that you're going to work more than 50 hours. All right. So all these things are important. But for me, the most important right now when you start up is have industry experience and strong work ethic. Okay. The other things can be developed and learned. Okay. Maybe emotional intelligence is harder to learn. And I want to emphasize again, really have a supportive family. Okay. Without that, you know, I've seen people start up businesses and they got so consumed by the businesses, but then they wound up in a divorce situation. They lost their family. And it's important to learn how to balance that. Even though I say strong work ethic, you still, family and your health have to be the most important. Okay. All right. Passion and values bring long-term success. You need more than passion and values, but it really does help if you're passionate about your product and service. It's hard to say, well, I'm just in it for the money. That doesn't work. You have to have a passion for what you're doing. All right. Robert, are there any questions that we need to handle here?
Most of the questions we've gotten so far are related to the attendance piece for SeedSpot.
Okay.
So we will, for everybody, we'll address that at the very end. We'll have Astrid talk about what you need to do with the SeedSpot stuff.
Okay. And did I pass over your skills needed? There was a poll that was supposed to be sent out.
Yes, I think so. Faith, did we have that poll?
So if we go back just a couple, this was your.
Yep, we can launch that poll.
Okay. And we'll discuss that a little bit later. Yeah. Okay. Let's move
Yeah,
on.
please answer this on this poll, because one, Al will be able to talk about it. Two, we can then leverage the responses that you were bringing to help create additional content for our boot camp series that can help you with your skills that you need to develop. And then Alan, there you go.
It stopped for a second.
Yeah.
I love technology when it works, but you have to fool around with it. So, all right, your options to get started. Okay, so starting for business from scratch is perhaps the hardest thing to do. Okay, but there's some real pros to it. Number one, you're not hampered by a previous image, and we'll go into that more as far as, let's say, I'm just taking that poll down for a second. So you're not hampered by the previous image. That's important, as far as when you buy a business, for instance, you can choose your own location, name, and logo, and build your own business relationships. You can explore new markets and directions. This is particularly important. Let's say that you have experience in the industry, you start a business. Okay, the cons is you have no existing customer base building one. If you were previously in the business and you're starting anew, you may have a customer base, but basically that's tough. And again, I come back to when I started this business for this German enzyme company. The first year, I had no clue who the customer was. We had a big, extensive marketing report that the Germans spent $100,000. And after 1 year, I found out that it was completely different marketplace, and we only had sales of $6,000. Now, I was funded, and I worked like hell for $6,000. Now, we eventually grew that business to $40 million over 9 years, but the first year was really difficult. You're taking on a bigger risk than if you were buying an existing business, which is true. And because your business has no track record, it'll be harder buying. In general, to get financing from, let's say, a bank, or to get some loan like 50,000, 100,000 more, okay, they want 3 years financing, okay? And just keep in mind that people like Jeff Bezos went to 50, I think it was 40 to 50 different banks before anybody would lend him $10,000 to start his online bookstore, okay? So it takes a certain persistence also to get the financing. Okay. No, it's not. Okay, now stop. All right, I have to stop share and go back in. Okay, any more questions right now?
So we have one question says, what are the pros and cons of a takeover?
Okay, that's a good point, and we're going to get into that a little bit more about the pros and cons of, let's say, buying a business. That's actually our next thing. So, and share, let me go back. I'm sorry, folks. This is still having problems with this forward. Stop share one more time.
Alan, we're also getting feedback that your voice keeps breaking up. So I don't know if you can get that microphone a little closer. If you want to try to run it just from that right there, we may need to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, let's see if that works. Okay, the options for getting started. We went from starting the business from scratch. Okay. Now we're going to go into, and coming back to that question about takeover, if you want to buy a business, there is a website called businessbuyandsell.com that I suggest you go to. Okay. And I would say buying a business is the best way of getting started if you can afford to buy a business. Okay. The pros are, number one, is you get an established customer base. That's very clear. Okay. The business is a known entity with a proven formula for name recognition. Hopefully. Okay. You can review the business records before buying to make sure it's profitable. And I would suggest in this case, you really do a lot of due diligence. And you have, let's say, accountants that can help you with due diligence. You have lawyers that can help you with due diligence. You have SCORE mentors that can help you with due diligence. But ask 5 million questions. When I sold one company, I sold another German company I was with, I sold one company to ConAgra. It took them a year and a half to do due diligence. Okay, take your time. Okay, but make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. Okay, because the business has a track record, you may be able to get funding easier. Okay, the cons, hidden problems that could haunt you, like misrepresentation of profitability. So a lot of small business owners, they put in all personal stuff and then they take it out, or they don't necessarily put in what they're taking home. Okay, and so it looks more good. The business has a reputation, but it isn't always good. Think of Subway. What happens to Subway? What happened to Subway after Jared came out as an abuser? Okay, their business went to hell. All right. The business's inventory could be obsolete. Assets or goodwill could be inflated. That is so true. A lot of businesses have problems just because they're stuck with old inventory and they have no cash flow consequently. Okay, so you have to check that in. Employees or customers may be loyal to the former owner because so management changes could happen. So again, when I sold this company to ConAgra, what happened is maybe I would say 30 to 40% of our customers left because they trusted the previous company I was running as opposed to ConAgra. or they felt that ConAgra would change the formulas to make it cheaper or something. So keep that in mind and keep, how are you going to combat it? Okay. There is no guarantee that past success will continue with under your leadership. Okay. Whoops. That's right. Okay. Franchise pluses and minuses here. Okay. So here's another website, for instance, where there's franchise, it's called franchiseopportunities.com. If you want to look up different franchises. Very important with franchises really to know if more than anything else is what is their brand. If you have the bucks to buy UPS or McDonald's, it's great because they already have a brand everybody knows. I bought a franchise called the Alternative Board and nobody knew them. Okay. So it was, so I was really doing the marketing. So, but as a franchise, become part of a system which is well-known image and proven products or services. You also have different franchisees across the country that you can communicate with. You're not alone, which I think is a terrific aspect of franchise. You have marketing and sales power of the franchisor behind you. Yes, and sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's not. You get training and guidance from the franchisor. That's very important. They may have a week or 2-week training program. You're part of a network, which I mentioned. It's easy to finance. Most franchisors have a relationship with a lender. True and false. Okay. It's something to check out before you buy a franchise. Is if I need money, can I go? Is there a particular bank that will loan me money to talk to them? Okay. The cons. You don't have as much freedom as an independent business. And that's so true. You have to go by the rules. You must pay ongoing royalties and other fees. And those fees may kill you. I've coached at least 3 or 4 different franchises, and every one of them complained about the marketing costs and the royalties and fees that the franchise or was given to. So check out whether there are complaints about that. Okay. You must sign a binding agreement that limits your ability to exit the business. Not only exit the business, they want you, for instance, the franchise I was involved with, wanted you to stay with the franchise for 10 years, and you couldn't. And it was hard to break. Okay. And it cost you money to break that. Okay. The franchise's problems, whether financial, image, or otherwise, become your problems. And we just mentioned that as far as, let's say, the Subway. Okay. That, now their problems are your problems. Okay. An online business. So this is exciting in the fact that you can lower your startup costs. You reach a greater geographic area. It's convenience and flexibility. Okay. Disadvantages: lower startup costs, more competition, low conversion rates, no personal contact, limited information, taste, texture, and odor. So realize, like for instance, Amazon, there's over 30% returns on Amazon as opposed to a retail store that maybe has 5% because people, once they try it, they want to return it. Well, that costs you money when you return it. Remember that on places like Amazon. Another thing is you really have to learn how, for instance, social media marketing, where you have no personal contact, works. We have one fellow that's a subject matter expert in SCORE that he was with Facebook for 2 years and he owned his own advertising agency for 20 years. And I bring him in when people talk about, using social media to develop their business, online business. And it's amazing. I still don't totally understand what this guy knows, but it's unbelievable how it can work, but you really have to know it. You really have to study it. You can't just put it out there on TikTok, or put it out there on Facebook and expect it to work. Okay. This is what we talked about. What skills do you have? Okay. administration, accounting, human resources, marketing, sales, customer service, production, and fulfillment, information technology, and physical plant. So, Faith, you already took a survey. What did they say? So administration was nine. Now I have to use my face. So administration was 19%, accounting 46%, human resources 27%, marketing 54%, very important, sales 44%, customer service 8%, production and fulfillment 21%, information technology 29%, and physical plant 19%. Why is that important? Stick is the business that you want to go into. Is it going to utilize those skills? Okay. And if there is something like marketing and sales, which I think are, especially when you're starting, really are probably two of the most important things to have, okay, is that marketing, sales, and customer service is really important to get your business started. If you are not comfortable with it, can you find someone to help you with it? Okay, like for instance, networking, etc. But these skills are important skills to have. I'd say at the startup, it's something different than when you develop. Human resources may not be as important when you start a business, depending upon what type of business. I know a fellow that started because a company basically fired him, and he was an IT guy, but all his customers wanted to go for him, and that's how he started his business. Okay. Okay. So everybody needs partners. Okay. And these are your very important partners. A banker, of course, when you need money, an accountant. Start with an accountant almost immediately so that if you don't understand financials, at least he can explain it to you. Don't just dump it. Have somebody explain it to you. And again, a SCORE mentor can help. An insurance agent, I'll get into why that's most important, okay, or very important. A lawyer, okay, and of course your SCORE business mentor. And again, we're for free. We have no agenda, okay, where these other folks may have a certain agenda because you're paying them. But we're going to tell you the way it is. Life really is in a nicer way possible. We're not there to destroy your dream. We're there to help you, but sometimes you need a reality check. Okay. Okay. So next we're going into legal things to consider. Any major questions that we should be answering, Robert?
Yeah, we got some questions. I think we'll hold these for now until the end. And then when looking at the time, Alan, we might want to go quickly through the simple business planning because we have a boot camp that we've done on that, as you know.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Okay, so legal things to consider. Despite this chart right here, I would first check out, a domain name because, and that's the next slide, but you don't want to name your company when somebody else has the same company. And you want to make sure that you have it, when you decide on the company name, you have it as .com and a .net, because then I had a situation where a company was a fulfillment company and he was a .net, and another guy formed the same company but as .com, and then consequently he had better SEO, search engine optimization, and there were a lot of customers that wanted to go to him and wound up going to somebody else. So have a domain. DBAs means doing business as. So for instance, you may have a parent company and then you have subsidiary. It's almost like a subsidiary that's doing business as. It puts the name on the public record and prevents someone else from registering that same name. Okay. Transaction privilege tax, that's very important, especially if you're a local vendor or something. And each town may have a different rule, or the state has a rule. So get a tax privilege, transaction privilege tax. An employer identification number, I would put that also in the beginning there, you know, that this is your, let's say, social security number for your business, basically. Okay, it's an employer identification number. This is required to open a business bank account and get a business license and file taxes. So that's one of the first things that you should do as far as getting an EIN number and also establishing a relationship with the bank, that you have a business bank account and a bank card or credit card, and have that, you know, and have that as a start. Okay. There's different corporations that you can find. We suggest, especially in startup, and again, you can double check this with a lawyer if possible, that you're either a sole proprietor or a limited liability company. Once your company reaches a certain, let's say, benchmark like 100,000 and you have several employees, it's important to change it into an S corp, and that's very easy. Okay, but the limited liability company, it limits the liability of the business owner. Okay, that means that when they sue, when somebody wants to sue you, for instance, they're suing the company, not the person. Okay, all right. The S corp is a little bit more complicated, but it limits the liability of the business owner. But you have to have taxes with the government, and you have to show a salary, etc. Okay. All right. Protecting your company name and trademarks. You can review this, but as I mentioned, these are resources that you can get, but register that domain as one of your first steps. Okay. Don't know if this is applicable at this point, if you're starting out as 1 or 2 or 3, but as soon as you start hiring employees, this becomes very important. Okay. Develop an employee handbook. I had a conversation with a lady the other day, and she didn't have an employee handbook. So one person wants to take 2 weeks vacation, one person wants to take 4 weeks vacation. Get it from the start. Okay. Develop job descriptions and grade levels, compensation by grades. This isn't always easy, but again, you can go on the internet and find basically what this is. Okay. Performance reviews. When I see bigger companies that don't really do performance reviews, or they are not honest during performance reviews, may leave you in a very tenuous position as far as hiring, as far as firing. Okay, so you have to have that type of performance. Okay. Develop a termination agreement and exit service. Okay. Find a payroll process. Okay. There are a lot of payroll processes out there. You don't want to go away from your strengths. I have one guy, I said, well, how much can you generate in your store when you're out there selling? Well, $30,000 to $40,000 a month. I said, well, what stops you? He says, well, I have to do all this bookkeeping. I said, you can pay somebody $15 an hour or $20 an hour to do the bookkeeping. Okay. Well, I don't really trust them. Well, find somebody that you do trust, but stick with what you know and stick with what's going to generate you revenue and profit. Okay. Workman's compensation insurance, you need workman's compensation insurance, and depending upon how costly it is how dangerous the job is. Okay. Okay. Buy insurance now, pay a lawyer at a much higher price. It's interesting. My son's a lawyer, and I had him speak at one of our workshops, and he says, okay, you don't want to spend $5,000 insurance? Fine. Pay me $50,000 later to settle your problem. All right. Make sure you have these type insurances available, or know what insurance is available. Talk to 2 or 3 companies. Don't just pick one. Okay. That say what is necessary to start my business or have for this business. If you own a franchise, they will probably tell you. okay? But it's good to talk and find out and find your own opinion of that, okay? Okay, simple business plan. All right, so traditional business plan, 15 to 35 pages. SCORE has it, SBA website, myriad of others. I've talked to several banks now. Some of these banks, like Robert mentioned, Prestamos has loans money, National Bank of Arizona, they have like 5-page business plans in order to borrow money. So keep that in mind before you get started. Talk to a bank, several banks, what's needed. It's what's most important to you to loan me money. That's what you need, okay? It's typical when seeking funding that you have business plans. So keep that in mind. We're going to keep this short, but today I always suggest doing a business model canvas, and Robert has webinars on that. We have workshops and webinars. It's very important. It's sort of like when you were a kid and you said, look, write an essay before you write an outline before you actually do that essay. Okay? This is all about bullet points. So that purple area is really about what you are creating. What do you do? Who's your target? Okay? What channels, etc. How are you going to reach them? How do you interact? The second part is how do you deliver it? How do you capture it, etc. Okay? And the third part, the green, is how you capture it. It's a way to really visualize that model. And I just want to emphasize again the model that Bash's has, where they have AJ's on one side and Food City. These are 3 different models, same company, but their targets are different. Okay, how they reach the people are different, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to emphasize also too that this is, you can do this for small business like a cleaning service. Since you're going to get these slides and the recording, you'll see that you can do it for small businesses and large businesses and this was more.
And yeah, Alan, as we're getting tight on time, we're gonna go through this real quick. You'll get the slide deck but we posted in the chat a link to our business model canvas boot camp recording that we did where we spent a whole hour diving deep into the business model canvas. So that way we can zip through this section and
hit
the rest of the time we have.
This can be done with whatever company you're doing, whether it's small or a cleaning service or this, that, or the other. And even McDonald's has a great business model canvas that, they do. Okay. So, okay. Financials and funding your business. First of all, you really, I don't care if you're good at math or not, you should understand the simple basics of your financial statements. And your profit and loss is this is an oversimplified version, but this is like your report card every month that you should be looking at. What are your sales? What is your cost of sales? Okay. So for instance, your sales could be $500, but when you take all the costs, it's $150. So your gross margin is $350. Okay. Your operating expenses, like your phone, your other things, are $150. So your earnings before tax is $200. And just look at that every single month and note. And again, a SCORE mentor can help you, an accountant can help you, but it's important to understand this and use it as a report card. Okay. If you are going to lend money, this balance sheet, okay, is very important for banks to understand. It's important for you to understand, but the banks are going to look at like your balance sheet. And basically, your assets and your liabilities are equal, okay? So you see total assets are $1,600, total liabilities. If you don't understand what assets are, it's like accounts receivable and inventory and office equipment. These are assets. You may have a car that's devoted to your company. That's an asset. Liabilities are your accounts payable that you haven't collected, or a credit card company, etc. Yeah? And ownership. Cash flow statement. I've talked to several banks, and one of the first things they look at is cash flow to lend you money. Because if they don't, you may have a great profit margin of 70% or something, and your balance sheet looks good. But if you don't have money coming in and out, why should they help you? Okay. I'm running through this very quickly. And again, Robert and also ACA and SCORE has webinars and workshops just devoted to some of these topics. Okay. Funding your dream. So what will it cost you to get started? Okay. Whatever you think, and again, be detailed. It's like if you, let's say you want to start a pizza shop and you figured out all the costs. So we have one guy who wanted to start a pizza shop, but he went and the SCORE mentor said, look, why don't you go to a pizza shop in a different geographical area because you're not a competition. Ask them what costs they need. Okay. So these are typical leasehold inventory equipment. But the guy that went to the other pizza shop, he all of a sudden looked around and said, boy, there's pictures on them. How much do they cost? And how about, that labor wall thing there? How much does that cost? He didn't figure that in. Okay. And he didn't even figure how much toilet paper cost. It would cost him $1,500 a year. Figure that out. Whatever you figure here, add 30% because that's usually what happens to people. Okay, the lender's view of borrowing. So these are typical things. I've talked to several bankers again. A lot of it has to do also too with your executive summary. Why should I lend you money? What is your experience in that particular? Okay, and I had one banker tell me, I only look at one thing. It's how are you going to pay me back? What type of collateral do you have? Do you have a house? Are you willing to put that into the mix? No. Your personal credit rating is important. Okay. If you have a credit rating of 600 or 650, it's going to be hard to lend you money. Okay. Source of funds, personal savings, of course. Family and friends, those would be the first ones. If you're committed to it, and you can find them that committed to partners' contributions. If you can avoid, let's say, a partner, especially in the initial stages, do it. If you have to have a partner, make sure there's some real strict buyout procedures or how much they get of your thing, even though they say they only have 10%. Okay. Credit cards, don't source your business through credit cards. Too much. Bank or third party loans, not parent loans, and private placement. Angel investors, venture capital funds, they usually want to see that you've really been in business and that you're really generating cash before they're going to invest. Okay. Exit strategy. It's almost as important as writing your initial business plan is knowing what your exit would be. How do you visualize the next 5 or 10 years? How are you going to get out of this business? Are you seeking to be acquired by a public company? Be acquired, go public. What's your legacy? I've had folks that tried to sell their business and you say, look, before you sell your business, you have to develop an exit strategy, which is basic business planning. Once they really did that, they said, why should I sell the business? Now it's perfect. Okay. It may have taken them 2 or 3 years to develop a real good business plan, but they had everything in place as far as exiting their business, and realize that only 28% of businesses are bought. Okay. Because there's not a clear exit, or the owner is the rainmaker. So if the owner is not there, the sales will not come. These type things you have marketing your business. I'm going to skip this slide. Today it's great that there's a lot of inexpensive marketing. You can look at this: blog posts, websites, e-commerce, Facebook, direct mail postcard, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing will ever replace sales. You have to, in the end, okay, except for online businesses, you have to get out there. There's nothing that's completely viral, okay? No businesses, even the ones that say they went viral, there was some place out there where people were. So keep that in mind. We're almost out of time, so summary: do some serious soul searching. That if this is starting a business right for you, okay, with all those things. Look at your options to become the owner. Take your time. Don't just rush into it. If it takes you a year, that's okay, okay? Don't rush. Do your research. Get a good team before you spend money. Lawyer, CPA, insurance agent, banker, score mentor. Failing to plan is simply planning to fail, okay? Business model canvas, a business plan. Business plans change. That's okay. But at least you're headed in a direction that at least you have a basic idea of the direction, okay? You will not find, even if you have to write your business plan on a napkin like FedEx did to start a business, do it, okay? Project your financials thoroughly and conservatively and look at them through time. So with that, if you want to request a mentor or go on our website to get those templates and upcoming websites and upcoming webinars and workshops, okay, this QR code can request a mentor. And there's my contact information. And that's it. So, Robert.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate that. Real quick, before we go in the Q&A, we're going to stay on past time to answer the Q&A. So if for those that want to hang on, feel free. I know a lot of people have other meetings at 10 a.m. and you need to jump off. But this is being recorded. It will be in our content library later today or tomorrow, along with a copy of the slide deck. So you can access it there and go back and review information. But we're going to go ahead and go through the Q&A. But before then, we're going to let Astrid come on again and talk to all the folks in the SeedSpot program on how to make sure you get credit for being part of this workshop.
I should stop my share.
Yeah, go ahead and stop your share.
All right. Hello, everyone. I see we had questions about the check-in. I am dropping the check-in link one more time in our chat. You can click this link. You type in BASES as your code word for the day. This is how you check in for every Startup Spring training class to receive credit. So if you didn't check in before, send us an email. We'll take a look at the Zoom list. It does show us who was present via Zoom as well. So we have a way to check if you were there. But fill out this form each time. Any other
Excellent.
questions on that?
Thank you, Astrid. And just a reminder for next week's session, you'll receive a direct email from either myself, Robert, or from Zoom with the specific link for you. So that way you won't have Astrid's name for all of them. But that was just one of those little complications that came up, but we'll make sure everybody gets the credit by filling out that, going to the SeedSpot link and filling out your information there. So let's jump into the Q&A real quick. We have a lot of good questions. The first one is, I'm a mobile business, but I want to open a physical location. And Alan, you kind of mentioned it before. When you go to a physical location, you want to make sure that your location is right. Lots of businesses have opened their physical location and it's been the wrong location. And it either costs too much, not in the right place for your customers, and that can create a challenge for you as you go forward. Let's see, next question. How early should I start to build business credit? I would like to get into real estate investing and want to own my first property by the end of 2024. Alan, what are your thoughts on that question?
I would start building business credit as soon as possible. It's never too early, okay? But again, talk to your banker about building business credit, okay? Ask that particular bank what is needed, because you'll find different banks have different mentalities about it, okay? And also, if you're a minority business, it may be different than if you're not, you know? So just realize that, all right? But start as soon as possible, because you don't know when you're gonna need money, okay? So,
Yeah, I always recommend to people, when you go open your business bank account, at that same time, ask for a business credit card, even if it's just a limit of, say, $200 on it,
exactly,
because you can spend $200 and pay it off, spend $200, pay it off. And then once you've shown that you pay it off, then you can ask for a higher amount and slowly build that up to higher amounts. Now, there's a second part in here that says, I'd like to get into investing in real estate and want my own property. Alan shared a slide that talked about sources of funding. Most businesses are started by your savings, you know, or investments from friends and family or a partner. If you're wanting to buy property or wanting to buy stuff on the business name, it's going to take a while to build up that credit, build up that ability to do so. So if you're, again, looking to buy, you know, a real estate business, you may have to use your own funds and your own credit score and history to get that going.
and we do have a couple of score mentors done exactly that, okay? So you can, again, look for a real estate investment person when you request a mentor, okay?
All right, I'm going to zip through a couple of these real quick. What is the average cost of marketing? That's kind of a loaded question, because it can be from 0 to thousands every month, depending on the type of business and how good you are. I have friends with a food truck owner that doesn't spend any money on marketing, and he has a 2-hour wait for his hamburgers every time he opens up his truck. And
Yep.
he, through his hard work on social media, has about 70,000 followers and never paid for any of those. Never paid for an ad. But then there's others that spend a lot of money because they need to. So it depends on the business, and there's a lot of factors that go into that.
And I think also too, when you're first starting a business, your marketing costs are probably much higher than as the business develops. I mean, I remember starting a business and maybe 10% of my revenue minimum was spent on marketing. As the years progressed, it came down to maybe 2% to 3%, because you're better known in the marketplace, you know. So,
and we have a great series, a 3-part series that we did to kick off 2024, and those are recorded in our content library on marketing. We have a lot of good marketing sessions, so check those out.
Yep.
All right. Is a TPT license required or optional for starting a business? Depends on your business.
Yep.
If you're selling something, then it's required. If you're not selling, then it may not be required. And that's where the checklist can help give you some more information on that we dive deep into that. And then also we had a webinar with the Lunch and Learn workshop recently with the Department of Revenue, specifically on TPT. So you might check that out. All right.
Where's the S Corp form?
Yeah.
Does each member of the LLC have to sign the S Corp form? Not in my knowledge, does each member, but if you have, you know, like, let's say somebody else is a partner with you, definitely, okay? I would talk, as soon as you're thinking about an S Corp, I would definitely talk to your accountant, okay? Definitely talk to your accountant. And don't
I would talk to your accountant and your attorney.
Right. And don't start, and really, if you don't have any sales, I wouldn't start as an S corp. I personally did that, and it was missing. Okay, I should have started as an LLC. Once you reach $70,000 to $100,000, maybe you switch to an S corp. But it's very easily done. But again, talk to them. Okay.
All right. Does SCORE have a template for an employee handbook?
I'd have to check that out. I haven't seen one, but I know online you can get templates for employee. SHRM may have it, which is a national group.
The Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, SHRM.
Thank you, Robert. I forgot that.
They're a great resource as well. They have local chapters that maybe will help you out as well.
Said I missed it. What are the ways to protect your business name? I'd say start out with, check out the domain names and the business names, okay? Because you don't want to duplicate somebody else's name, okay? And get a domain name with .com and a .net to protect yourself also, because somebody else could use your name, but it's .net versus the .com, okay? So protect yourself that way.
All right, is the employee handbook pretty universal? We just kind of answered that one, but some things may be semi-universal, but you do need to target it and tailor it to your business. You might, if you don't do that, you might end up with something in there that you didn't want.
Yep. And you should know that handbook better than anybody else, and stick to it as much as possible. I've seen a lot of businesses, well, this guy's special and this is the only one that can do it and everything else. And, well, they're holding you hostage. So they take more vacation and they do this, that, and the other, and everybody else is looking at them and say, why does he get that? I don't get that. Stick to it. Okay.
So is this training for nonprofits and for-profits? Yes, you have to plan with that both. One thing with nonprofits is you don't own the nonprofit. The nonprofit is run by the board of directors. So there's a little bit of structural differences there on nonprofits. But SCORE can help you with nonprofits, and so I would reach out to the SCORE team for some help.
We have
there.
several people that are still running nonprofits, but also in addition to that, keep in mind there's also, we talked about a business model canvas, also a mission model canvas, which is a little bit different, okay? But it's planning out for a nonprofit.
So it says most lawyers in our community focus on criminal affairs. Are there specific type of lawyers who focus solely on business related issues? Yes, there are business lawyers all over the state, in about every community. They just don't advertise on TV as much as the criminal or accident attorneys do. But you can definitely find business lawyers in every community.
And realize, like doctors, many lawyers have specialties, okay? My son calls himself a business divorce. So partners are trying to break up, but, they are definitely in some businesses, some lawyers are associated with just helping starting up small business. We have a few of them in our SCORE mentors. So, okay.
So Kathy asked a couple of these next questions, and we're not going to dive into them too deep about business loans. But business loans, you'll definitely want to get with your accountant on that. Make sure things are set up right on how they're being accounted for properly, so it doesn't get you messed up in your books.
And definitely go to several banks and ask them, look, I'd like to loan some money. Just tell me what the basis of loaning money is from your particular bank. Okay.
And loans are not income. They're not an expense. The loan is a chunk of money here, and when you pay it off, you're just slowly bringing that balance down. So it's a loan payment is not an expense. The interest sometimes can be, but it can get complicated. So that's why you want to work with your account.
Yep. Operating. Go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
And payroll systems, unless you have anything, I was gonna say, reach out to maybe a PEO or a payroll provider. Payroll systems can be complex and you want to make sure it's right. And if you're looking for benefits, health, retirement, etc., PEOs, professional employment organizations, are a good option. They're not the only option, but I've been involved with them in the past and they are a good option.
Yep. And again, ask thousands, millions of questions, okay? And ask several sources until you get some answers that you feel comfortable, okay? Don't hesitate to call up a PEO. Just look up PEOs in Arizona, ADP or Paychex or whoever, and just talk to them, okay? Is a line,
So go ahead.
no, Robert, I should let you.
So the next one, we're almost done. We're gonna cut up here quick. Says, thank you, Brian. The franchise site, I see some franchises ask for over 70,000 in cash. Can that be provided through a loan? All the franchise stuff is done through the franchisor and their requirements. Some require $500,000 to purchase the franchise agreement. Oftentimes they're done through loans. Oftentimes they're done through creative financing based on your retirement money and other things, or you may have the cash in the bank or investments that you can sell to buy the franchise. That piece can be complicated, but every franchisor should have some guidance on way people have bought their franchise in the past and what they require. Some not only require the cash, but they also require you have, net worth of a certain dollar amount as well. So
Yep.
You just have to check with the franchisor on that.
Yep.
Is a line of credit the same as a credit card? They can function similar. They're not the exact same. Line of credits usually are higher dollar amounts than your credit card might have, but you can work with your bank on those.
Yeah, what's great is if you have a house, you can take out a home equity loan, and it's probably you're better off transferring money, but make sure you say, let's say owner lends the business, let's say $5,000, but you have a lower credit to, and you don't have to go through all the gyrations, because most of the houses are escalated that you can take out an extra home equity loan of $100,000.
How to find angel investors for investments? What are some of the resources? Some of the resources are going to startup events throughout the state, the valley, or whatever area you're in. Talking to people. Most angels are not going to invest in your business if you haven't invested first. They're looking for some profitability or some potential gains on their investment. That's not going to be a challenge, but that can be a tricky thing. Finding angel investors, it takes a lot of networking and talking to 100 people before you might get a yes. There's going to be a lot of no's. So just be prepared for that. I want to sell some merchandise with my municipality name on it. I am not sure on the copyrights on that. That's a pretty good legal question. I would check with the lawyer to see. I believe you can do it, but I'm not a lawyer, so I can't make a legal decision on that. But definitely something to look into. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer. Alan, do you know on that?
No, I really don't. But also too, you can check on, each town has Tempe.gov or Mesa.gov or something like that you can check there and ask. That they allow you to ask questions and see what they come.
So on the benefits payroll, it's called the PEO, Professional Employment Organization. Some of the bigger names you might recognize are Paychex. ADP is a big one. So those are two of the big ones. But there's more than that out there in the marketplace. You just have to look and compare costs and benefits and so forth. And then how do I get in contact with SeedSpot? Astrid, do you want to drop in the chat real quick, that contact information? All right, and I see that she just did that, so. Kathy asked if there's a website for reasonable salaries for employees. I would look at Glassdoor. You can search by different job titles and different things. And then the Society of Human Resource Management might have some information for you. All right, so with that, thank you for all those that stayed on. Quite a few that stayed on to listen to the Q&A. We appreciate that, even though we went over quite a bit, but that's okay. Sometimes we can do that. We appreciate everybody being with us, and we hope to see you next week. For next week's session, we've got a great session planned, so join us for that. And until then, we'll have a great week, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.